So we take a look at last night's game overall. A rough one.
Do we have to?
A little bit, but with plenty of reason that you don't really panic because the Orioles still have a 2-game lead. But
Right.
if anything, it does draw attention that the Orioles might need to do some shopping.
Yeah, if they had kids run the bases, somebody's ERA would have gone up even more yesterday. It was just one of those days, and we already knew that they have to look at pitching. They are doing. I see fans, obviously they get impatient. Mike Elias, what about now? It's not like he hasn't thought of it. You have to find the right trade partner. You're trying to determine who's a buyer, who's a seller, because of that extra wild card. And there's some borderline teams. Teams are trying to figure out who's available from the farm system, how many times you can say no about Jackson Holiday. Is Kobe Mayo on the table? I hear a lot of people say they are not parting with him. Samuel Basayo, is it Connor Norby, whatever. So it's a lot easier to talk about than actually to execute it. And they may have some internal options in the meantime. And they are going to get out a starter. They are going to get a reliever. But they also are looking at the farm. We hear Chase McDermott, who is a starter in AAA, high strikeout totals. Could he be like the DL Hall who comes here and is in a bullpen for a while, but he's got to work on the walk rate? He had a rough outing last night. I keep tossing out a lefty, Trey McGo, and I checked how to pronounce it. It's not McGuff, it's not McGriff, it's not, lefty they got in the AAA phase of the Rule 5 draft from Mount St. Mary's, who's got like this 2.57 ERA at Norfolk, goes 183 at Bowie. That's somebody to keep an eye on. 3 1/3 scoreless last night. They're going to check the farm. Nick Vespi, it's been days since we've seen him. Maybe he comes back. But they are trying. But in the meantime, you've got some growing pains with a Kate Povich. And I give him credit afterwards, say, look, I'm alive, I'm still breathing. More than you can say about this ballpark. But yes, he's still okay. So, he'll be fine, but there are going to be those rough moments. And he said I wasn't in attack mode early yesterday, and there was no later for him. He was gone by the second inning without a batter retired.
And you looked at the rest of the game, and it wasn't like it got a lot easier for everybody else. Even James McCann's perfect ERA is no more at this point.
That was a McCann on McCann crime. Is that a first? Like, literally,
it is.
Has that ever happened?
It absolutely is.
You looked it up?
Yeah.
That's
no
amazing.
other McCanns.
That's amazing.
But you do look at what they bring to the table overall, and we turn our attention from that into the fact we have 1 week before the draft, the All-Star game, everything else. So far, we know that Adley and Gunnar are going as they should, but you look at Ryan O'Hearn and losing that vote by only 4%. Anthony Santander having a stellar walk year overall. Where are you looking at individually with each of these remaining candidates?
Yeah, I would think Corbin Burns is a slam dunk. You would have to think that. And he's already made 3 straight, only pitched in 1. And he's a former Cy Young winner, so there's a lot there, reputation. I don't see how he doesn't. And he also would have an opportunity to actually pitch in the game because the way the rotation's laid out, he's pitching Wednesday against the Cubs. So that would make him available. We weren't sure if they were going to try to maneuver things and have him start against the Yankees Sunday, but they're not. So he could conceivably at least pitch in the game, could make his first start. Now, his wife is going to have a say in it. Brooke did give birth to twins.
Which is fair.
Yeah, so her vote counts more than anybody else's, so I'm sure that will be a family discussion of whether it's okay. I don't think those babies are old enough to travel, so he would have to leave the family if he's willing to do that. And then you look at like Craig Kimbrell. If Burns is 1, then Kimbrell should be 1A on that list. That would be his 10th. We don't know yet, but it'd be hard to fathom a guy who's pitching this well, and again, who's made 9 in the past, not being there. But then you also have to look at every team's got to be represented. How many people can you fit on the staff? And then, then you've got the more borderline guys, including Santander. Ignore the average and on-base percentage, and he's definitely worthy.
Yeah.
Westberg, and we've said O'Hearn would be such a great story as a guy who was in a cash transaction and a DFA 2 days later.
On a non-competitive team.
Yes, and then get back onto the 40-man and do what he's done. It'd be a great reward.
And I think that's where I side with you on there. As you look at O'Hearn's numbers overall, again, the fan vote's super close, but even when you take that away, what he's been able to do, DH first base doesn't matter. Off the bench, he's still hitting .667. That's just the most gaudy of numbers, and the way that he's also kind of not just transformed himself with this team, but transformed the team around him. It's a feel-good story that you love to see, and I think for Jordan Westberg, the ceiling's high. He's going to have other years, certainly, where you think he's going to be back on that ballot.
Yeah. And it'd be easier if he could settle at one position, but, we said that about it with Gunnar, and then he ended up everyday shortstop. And Westberg, what he's done to adapt, and he's right over here, catching my eye, but what he's been able to do playing second and third, that's not easy for anybody, let alone a younger guy. And just a really professional hitter. You have to keep reminding yourself, how many full seasons has he had in the majors? Like 0, and this guy gives you those kind of at-bats. There are going to be plenty down the road. But again, it's always hard to predict because, of how they determine the reserves and the other pitchers and the fact that every team needs to be represented.
Have you seen anybody like Westberg in your time covering the Orioles who can split time like that and still be so consistently professional at the plate?
I mean, I'd have to really go back. No, and especially at that age. I mean, you know, a veteran can maybe do that, but for as young as he is, and, you know, he was one of those guys who's always been under the radar, which is funny for as good as he is. And he was a high draft pick because all the talk, obviously, it's Adley, it's Gunnar, it's Jackson Holliday, who's not even here, and then there was a lot about Colton Cowser. And it's like, oh, by the way, there's this guy, and he's got a quiet personality, as you know. Great quote once you talk to him, but he's very kind of low-key, under the radar. That's the way he likes it. So you tended to kind of overlook him a little bit. And then, but the Orioles didn't because they planned. He's going to play pretty much every day. It's just a matter of which position.
All right. Well, they're taking the field behind us right now, and it's the last time that they will take Ricky Henderson.
You're not going to make me cry. You're not going to make me cry.
You know,
Melanie.
I really wanted to go full Barbara Walters with this and really dig into the emotions of Roch here. But have you met the possum? What are your memories here?
I've never seen the possum, but I have my memories because I'm old enough. Is as a kid those great playoff series, Orioles, A's, early mid-'70s, Jim Palmer, Catfish Hunter, Vida Blue, those guys. I think they lost 1-0. Palmer home run, Sal Bando, they lost 1-0. The Orioles were a great team. They ran into that A's dynasty at that point, or who knows how many more championships they might have. But you see, we know what this place is, and we know the area. My cab driver last year taking me from the airport to the hotel, spent the whole time telling me where not to go. Oh, your car got broken in here. This isn't safe, and San Francisco's worse. I'm like, dude, you're lousy for tourism. Because I said, my hotel okay? Oh, you'll be fine there. You're fine. But there have been like legendary players that have played here, and you see the names on the upper deck. And Raleigh Fingers, my grandmother used to call him Rolly Fingers, and ask if he was going to walk on the field in his fingers. And when you're a little kid, you'll laugh at that every time. Handlebar mustache, and Sal Bando, Gene Tennis, Burt Campaneris, obviously Reggie, and Catfish. I mean, these are legendary players. Plus, you had the Raiders playing here, and they were legendary. So it's really sad what's happened in this area where they don't have football, they're not going to have baseball, basketballs in San Francisco. That's just, you know, what the times are now. And, you know, enjoy Sacramento next year when it's 117 degrees with no coverage.
Thank you very much for that.
I won't be on that trip. Steve Molesky, pack your bags.